This past week, I heard myself asking out loud a couple of times, or maybe even these past months, I asked myself out loud, are men okay? Like, seriously, are you okay? Because of the toxic male behavior that is coming to light the last couple of weeks, months, even years, because of all the wars going on caused by toxic male leaders, dominant, patriarchal, hierarchical, toxic leaders trying to control the world, resources, land. And this past week, again, another horrific website was discovered with many men on it talking about how to abuse their women, their girls, their daughters, their mothers, whatever. And all kinds of horrific things that I don't even want to detail and point out here. And I just ask myself, are men okay? And I don't think they are okay. And I know nobody truly is okay right now. Also, women aren't. But I want to specifically talk about men today, and not in a blaming or shaming way, but really with this compassionate question, are you okay? And when I was thinking about answering that question, are men okay, I just got to this concept, right? The male loneliness epidemic that is circling around on social media now for a while as a reaction to the feminist movement, the women's rights movement, as a reaction to women standing up for themselves, right? This concept came to life, the male loneliness epidemic. And I realized, yes, there is a deep male loneliness epidemic, but it's not what we think. And I want to talk about what the true male loneliness epidemic is today, because I think if we understand it, we can do something with it. Especially you as a man, if you listen to this. Because if you look closely at what the male loneliness epidemic truly is, it's not so much that men are alone now because women hate them and don't want to be with them anymore. That's really not the case. It's really not women's fault. It's not an individual's fault. It's not your mother's fault that you are lonely. It's not an individual woman's fault, or women in general, that men feel lonely. But to understand that, we have to take a closer look at what male loneliness actually is right now. And if I zoom into it, the loneliness that men experience is actually a lack of emotional intimacy with themselves, with their body, with their emotions, with their hurt, with their pain, with their grief, with their joy, their desires. They lack the intimacy with that. They lack the connection with that. And they also lack an intimacy with their brothers, with their friends, with their fathers, with nature and with life in general, because our society conditions them out of such a connection. Our society shames them for it and makes it so that little boys from a young age learn that emotional intimacy is not something for them. It's not a masculine thing. So they suppress it. They harden it, they stuff it away inside of themselves under layers of shame, and they outsource it. And in a patriarchal, capitalistic, heteronormative, nuclear society like we are living in right now, this has always been the case for men. Men have always lacked this emotional intimacy because it was shamed out of them. But before feminism, before the women's rights movements, before the emancipation of women, before women were allowed to be whole, autonomous beings on their own and not feel ashamed for it, women were dependent on men. They were oppressed because they weren't allowed to have their own bank account, their own homes, their own money, their own jobs. They couldn't even vote, etc. So because of the patriarchal system we were living in, women were made dependent on men. They needed men. And because men were in a way entitled to a woman in their lives, and at the same time were expected to not have this emotional intimacy with themselves, with others, with nature, with life, men were able to outsource that to women, and women were forced in a way to do this emotional labor for the man in their lives. Because women, on the other hand, were conditioned to soothe, to caretake, to comfort others, to do the emotional labor, to mother someone, to make someone feel seen and heard and loved, to give, to self-abandon and to give, to be of service. right? To mother the people around them, to be the mothers in a way, to do the emotional labor, and that's what we call it. And when women are dependent on men, men are not confronted with the lack of emotional intimacy inside of them. They're not confronted with the loneliness that they already feel, because nothing is more lonely than having to suppress certain parts of yourself out of shame, guilt, fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, etc. Because if we are forced in a way to suppress certain parts of ourselves from a young age, we create a gap inside, a wound, an emptiness, and we experience that emptiness as loneliness. Because it is very lonely when you cannot fully feel yourself, and when you're not fully allowing yourself to be who you truly are, expressing your authentic self. And that means the whole spectrum of being human, and not only the patriarchal approved ways of what it means to be a man. But what happened with feminism, the women's rights movements, the emancipation of women, is that women were slowly allowed to integrate the masculine traits that they were conditioned to outsource in the first place. So they were allowed to evolve and to develop the masculine traits that they normally outsourced to men when they were still dependent on them. They were allowed to do it. There was less shame on it. So they could grow, and they could, what we say in psychotherapy, they could become fully and whole and integrated human beings, because now all of the parts of who they truly are could be expressed, and they didn't have to suppress certain parts of themselves anymore, because it didn't have as much consequences as in the past. Still, I can talk about it for hours, how women are still holding themselves back because of that trauma and that oppression, but that's a different video. But in general, it was even celebrated for women to develop themselves and to stop outsourcing the traits that they don't need anymore, and to integrate that. And this is a very good thing. I mean, I'm pro women's rights movement. I'm pro feminism. I'm a true feminist myself. So that is a very good thing. But what we forgot as a society as a whole is to dismantle the patriarchy in and of itself, also inside of men, because men are also victim of this society that we are living in. And what we forgot is to allow men to integrate the traits that they outsource to women, the feminine traits. Up until today, we're still shaming men as a society, as a patriarchal society as a whole, for expressing these feminine traits, for being in touch with their emotions, for their vulnerability, for talking about what they feel, etc. So in all those years that women were able to develop, we never allowed men to develop themselves too. And when you still believe in your core that women have something you need that you do not have yourself, or you cannot allow yourself to have, or you feel so deeply ashamed for that you don't even know anymore that you are suppressing it inside of yourself, you feel very dependent on women. You feel incomplete without them. And if they are not giving you what you need, you will feel resentment. You will want to control them. You will want to get something from them. You will want to use them. You will want to dominate them. You will want to control and oppress them, because they have something you need and you believe they are the only way to get it. So men feel left behind. They feel lonely. They are scared they will feel incomplete for the rest of their lives. They want something from women that they don't believe they have inside of themselves. And that is what the male loneliness epidemic is. It is men yearning to connect with the feminine energy, not believing that they can connect with the feminine energy inside of them. Next to that, I strongly believe also that because we have a collective trauma on the toxic patriarchal masculinity, I also strongly believe in a way that we swung the pendulum too much to the other side when it comes to masculinity, and we are scared and afraid of everything that looks like that toxic behavior, and we are not allowing ourselves to have that masculine energy inside of us. So even in men, I think there is a battle between not allowing themselves to integrate the feminine energy, but also not truly connect with their masculine energy, because we don't even actually really know what healthy masculine energy is. And men feel that, and they experience this as a loss. So we have to come up with better answers for boys. Who can you be? Who are you? What can you serve? But also help them integrate these feminine traits and help them connect with their aggression, with their healthy aggression, with their anger in a healthy way, with their hurt in a healthy way, with their shame. Because if we have better answers, we can truly raise our boys and girls in a different way and slowly over time create a different system, right? So it's not a women's job to get men out of their loneliness epidemic. It's a man's job to work together with his brothers, to unshame the feminine parts, the soft parts inside of them, to grieve with each other the hardened hearts that they had to create to survive in this world, to unshame their creative expression, their softness, their desire to caretake, to soothe, their desire to be loved, to be seen, to be caressed, and to say, okay, yes, that is something my mother should give me when I'm little, but when I'm a grown-up adult, I should be able to mother myself. And that is the only way to become a whole, autonomous, integrated human being as a man, and to be able to feel, wait, I don't need women. And when I don't need them anymore, I can stop with projecting my unmet needs onto them. I can stop projecting my suppressed parts onto them. I can stop expecting that they fill the gaps that I feel inside of me. And I can start become whole myself and start living everything that I am. Step out of this conditioning of the patriarchy, out of these binary roles. And when you are there, then you are truly able to connect with women, with men equally. Then you are able to see women for who they truly are, the most beautiful, goddess-like creatures on this planet, and you can connect with them, relate to them equally. And that is such a different experience. It's the most beautiful experience there is. Because it's not coming from neediness, it's not coming from control, it's not coming from domination, it's not coming from lack. It's coming from wholeness and your heart and your body being so full that you are able to give and to serve and to be of service to women, to children, and to our planet. And that is what true masculine leadership is, what true masculinity is, what being a mature, sovereign, autonomous human being is. That is what we need. That is how we can find each other. And that is how we can create true change. Have a good day.